Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It's been a long time since I've posted, but as soon as I heard the news of the new Nobel Prize winner, I got up straight and I decided to read the book. So I'm really excited to give a review of it, and just in general, hearing the news that Kang is the first South Korean or even Asian author to win the Nobel Prize, Asian female to win the Nobel Prize for Literature, I was ecstatic. I was like, okay, I need to read this book because I want to be a Nobel Prize winner one day. So I'm ready to just take all of the knowledge and everything that allows other people to also be successful in their writing. For me personally, I do know that they look at your full body of work, but it was her latest novel that did get her more international acclaim and praises. So, who is Han Kang? I learned some really fun facts about her before I read the book, just so that I can hype myself up to see what's in store. I do know that a lot of reviews on Goodreads, for example, were not so positive because the book is very abstract, basically. Not really abstract, but it's literary fiction, so not everyone is going to get it. It's not a straightforward plot. It's more about an idea and running with that idea. So the reviews were negative, but I know that after she has won the Nobel Prize, a lot of people are going to look at the book with a new perspective, like, oh wow, what made this book so special that she won the Nobel Prize? Maybe she is such a good writer, because all of your achievements do affect how people view you. Especially with BTS V giving her flowers over Instagram, posting her, a lot of international viewers will definitely be looking at her work. Okay, so Han Kang, she is a South Korean writer and she taught creative writing at Seoul University or the Institute of Arts from 2007 until 2018. She was born in November 27th, 1970. She was born in Gwangju in the Chola province. She's a writer and she went to Yonsei University. My best friend went to Yonsei University. So this is, I was like, I sent her all the details, like, I'm going to read this book. I'm so excited. She is divorced and she has one child. Okay. So a lot of her works are based on her childhood hometown in Gwangju. A lot of the riots that were happening there, massacres, a lot of traumatic events that did happen to her. She did move away with her family before a lot of the bad stuff did happen. So for her and her family, they did live with a lot of guilt. Like, if we didn't move, we would also be there as well. Her literary career began when five of her poems, including Winter in Seoul, were featured in Winter 1993 issue of the Quarterly Literature and Society. One fun fact that I learned was that she wrote this book in longhand. So I had to Google what longhand was, but she wrote the entire book by hand. That's very impressive. Okay, so she's in her 50s now, and I'd say, like, that's very young to win a Nobel Prize. I know a lot of people get the Nobel Prize when they're in their 80s, and I was just like, at least she got what she needed. She does have a very chilled personality. She says she suffers from, I think, arthritis in her hands and in her joints, so it does make it difficult for her to sit for long periods of time. But when you love writing, you have to do what you have to do. By the way, I'm sorry for the way that my voice sounds. Well, I was sick, so now I'm still recovering. There's a lot of mucus and everything. Sorry about that. So, Kang first published a three-part novel, which was The Vegetarian, in 2007. So that would make her 37 years old. And they do say that the best time to write is after 25 years old and to get things published because your brain is fully developed. You're able to be your own person and have your own style. So, based on Han's 1997 short story, The Fruit of My Woman, The Vegetarian is set in modern day Seoul and tells the story of Yong-hae, a part time graphic artist and homemaker whose decision to stop eating meat after a bloody nightmare about human cruelty leads to devastating consequences in her personal and familiar life. Okay, so when I first started reading the book, it was from the husband's perspective, and I was like, I mean, he's her husband. And eventually I was just like, I don't know this man. I don't want to know this man. He's horrible. Okay, so with the plot, the vegetarian tells the story. Oh, sorry. So Mr. Chong is her husband, and he talks about her like in just the most horrible way as the book starts off. He's like, she's completely unremarkable in any way. And he explains that when he first met her, he was not even attracted to her, and that suited him just fine. Like, he just looked at her and was like, okay, I could marry her, which apparently a lot of men do. Mr. Chung is content meandering through life. It seems as if his only goal is to live a conventional, unremarkable life, which is the mindset that is normally attributed to most Asian men, especially in the work culture. If we look at Japan and Korea's work culture, just get the job done and don't make a big splash in any way. He chooses to marry his wife since he thinks she would prove to be a good, dutiful wife who would fit nicely into the kind of lifestyle he seeks, impressing his boss, getting a promotion, and just living an ordinary life. After several years of relatively normal marriage, Mr. Cho makes up he wakes up to find his wife disposing of all the meat products in the house. Now, when this was happening, I started getting scared. I was like, is she possessed? Like, is she like eating the meat straight out of the fridge, like raw meat? Is this like Rosemary's Baby? But no. He demands an explanation, and Young Hae replies vaguely that she had a dream. And she keeps saying this. She's just very vague, like, I had a dream. And when he attempts to rationalize his wife's life decisions over the next few months, like this is happening over a few months, but the book is so short that it's like, I was just like, oh, the following week, this is happening. No, this is like a long time of her being vegetarian. And by the way, the title being vegetarian is a testament to the Korean culture because she's actually vegan, but there is no word for vegan in the Korean lexicon. So they just have to say vegetarian, which just shows Korea's culture has not progressed to recognize modern diets, for example. So she's vegan, but everyone around her is just like, oh, she just doesn't eat meat. No, she doesn't eat any animal products, milk, eggs, things like that. So, over the next months, they try to deal with vegetarian meals at home, but as Younghae gradually starts to eat less and continues to get thinner, he eventually calls Younghae's family and an intervention is scheduled. Guys, like, oh my goodness. So, she has a habit of not wearing a bra in the book. And at first, I was like, leave the woman alone, free the titties. But he gets invited by his bosses, like very important people, into a work event, like a dinner, where they drink after work and everything like that. And his wife comes and she is not wearing a bra, and all of the wives of his bosses are staring at her nipples. And I was like, oh dang, oh no. I was worried he's gonna like beat her after this, like, what's, like, you embarrassed me in front of my colleagues. But he's just embarrassed. And then when they get home, I think a lot of events do take place that are just like the day to day. Like, she's always tired, she's not doing much. She is behaving strangely though, because like she'll get naked and she just doesn't care. Like, she's kind of lost the will to live. Like, she's just gonna vegetate and just be like nothing. So she's always naked, she's always sunbathing naked, the hipster kind of vibe. And she doesn't want to have like relations with her husband anymore, and a lot of men do feel entitled to their wives' bodies. So when they stop having intercourse, basically, he starts getting frustrated. And then he does push her to the ground and he proceeds to have his way with her. And she's fighting him, but then eventually she just resists. She's a plant. Things happen to her. So that happens. And at that moment, I was like, oh no, like, oh, this just happened. And it was written in such a like flowing kind of way that I was like, oh wow, this book is going to be like very mellow about horrible situations happening to this woman. So the POV of the book changes to her brother-in-law's perspective and her sister's perspective and her husband's perspective. So when the family does have an intervention, my goodness, I was not even expecting this. So while around the dinner table, Younghae's family attempts to convince her to eat meat. And this is like, oh my gosh, if you've ever told your family, oh, I'm going to be vegetarian, you know that they will berate you, that you know that kind of family vibe of you're not serious. Look at this chicken, eat it, eat it. So her family attempts to convince her to eat meat. Her father, who served in Vietnam, so he's hardened father, he's very strict and mean to them. He is known for his stern temper and slaps her when she refuses. And the whole family is like silent. They're like, whoa, what just happened? He slapped her. So he slaps her, and everyone is like, whoa, whoa, you didn't have to do that. Her father then asks her brother in law and her husband to hold her down while he force feeds her a piece of pork. And Younghae breaks away. She spits the pork out in his face. Like, literally, I was like, what's going on? And then she quickly grabs a fruit knife and slits her wrists. Blood is everywhere. Like, honestly, for me, that was the most impactful scene of the whole book, because then it shows a shift. Like, don't mess with her. She's serious. So the family rushes her to the hospital where she recovers and where her husband admits himself that he has become that she has become mentally unstable. As the section ends, Yonghae manages to walk out of the hospital where she is tracked down and she reveals a bird in her palm, which has a predator's bite in it. And she asks, have I done something wrong? So she eventually moves in with her sister and her brother in law, so her sister's husband. Oh, and here is where the book takes a turn. The next section of the book is called Mongolian Mark. So the husband of Yonghe's sister, Inhe, whose name remains unstated, is a video artist. He imagines a love-making scene between two people with their bodies decorated by painted flowers. Now, personally, I did not like this part of the book. I was like, "Ugh, I don't want to hear this man's perspective. He's weird, he's creepy." But he's an artist, so he's jobless, and his wife is doing all the work, and he just has all the traits of like a bitter house husband. He doesn't want to do anything because his wife is making the money, so what's the point? That part really touched me. So I was just like, I'm upset. Like, we don't even get his wife's name. So that already shows like it's again commentary on Korean culture or Asian culture of women are not important. Like, they are subservient. Who cares about their opinions? We don't even get her name, his wife's name. We don't get in his Yon his perspective. So I'm actually just gonna rush through this because I was genuinely bored. Yonghe has a Mongolian spot birthmark shaped like a flower petal, and the husband, who's the artist, forms a plan of painting her and recording her naked body basically for his next art installation. So she's Young is very weak-minded at this stage. Not weak-minded, but she's very like blasted as a person. She's passive, that's the word. She's passive and she'll just do whatever. If you tell her, go go walk outside naked right now, she'll take off her clothes and she'll go because she doesn't care. She's just existing. Okay. So he paints her body filled with flowers and he records her, but he's not happy with it. He wants to make it more sensual. He wants to make it more like risque. So he invites one of his artist friends to come in and do a photo shoot with her, and they're both naked and he paints flowers on her their both of their bodies and takes the pictures. Now it's like, I want you guys to do it. Do it in front of the camera so that this can be more avant-garde. And his friend is like, "Are you crazy? No. Who is she even? Like, is this some kind of like prostitute or something?" And he's like, "No, it's my sister-in-law." Anyway, so after being refused, the artist's husband, who is her brother-in-law, married to her sister, he's like, "Okay, I'll do it." So he paints his body, and then he and young hair do it. They have intercourse and it's filmed and everything. And I'm like, oh no, this is so messy. How did we get here? So his wife comes in the next morning after the two of them have engaged in recorded intercourse. She sees the videos, she's watching it, and she just lays down on the kitchen table and she's exhausted. She's like finished with him. So he wakes up and he sees that, oh, the camera has moved. And he goes to the kitchen and there's his wife. And she's upset. So when his wife discovers the film, she calls emergency services because she believes that he and her sister are not mentally well. Like you can't just do this and think normally. And when the police come in, or emergency services specifically, he does the funniest thing, and I wish he had just completed it. He attempts to jump off the balcony to his death. Like he was just like, okay, I'm done. But he remains rooted in the spot. Like they grab onto him in the last moment. And Inhe's just there with her coochie out to the world sunbathing as the sun came out. Like she was by the balcony, but then you're like, oh, she's not going to jump. She's just standing there. So that whole part, I was just like, this is crazy. Oh, this is so crazy. Hmm. And then the next part is blaming trees. In remains the only member of the family to support young hair after her mental and physical decline. So now she's literally skin and bones. Like, you know, when you see um ED documentaries of like the girls being in hospital, being force fed or fed through a tube, like they're literally just bones, rib cages. They mention a lot about how she does not have any more breast. Like her chest is completely like bones and muscle and sinew. Like you can barely see any fat on her body at all. So a lot of her sister has separated from her husband, and after the previous event, and she is left to take care of her son, and she's left to take care of her sister, and she is left to still make money, go to work, earn like for the to pay the bills. And as Younghae's behavior worsens, she is admitted to a mental hospital where, despite receiving high-level treatment for anorexia nervosa and schizophrenia, she behaves gradually more plant-like, which is the key word. The whole book is about her becoming a plant. But anyway, we'll get to that at the end. On one occasion, she escapes the hospital and is found standing in a forest at night, like it's really dark, and she's soaked with rain, as if she herself were one of the glistening trees. In here, who constantly ruminates about the pain of dealing with her divorce and the care of her child, and who throughout the chapter shows sign of her own depression and mental instability. She still has the strength to visit her sister regularly and continues to try to get her to eat. Oh my gosh, like for me, I feel like this is really reminiscent of my own relationship with my sister because it's like if someone is going through something, it does not only affect that person. If it's two sisters, it will always affect the other sister. Like you can feel it. Like there's just a deep bond. If any of you are just like two siblings or two girls specifically in the family, like you will resonate with it a lot. Especially being young girls and having to deal with like body image issues and the media just constantly saying you should look like this, look like that, and things like that. Which ignore it. Please, if any of you have social media, delete it. I've only got YouTube. Like I deleted Facebook, Instagram. It's toxic out there, as we all know. So she visits her sister regularly and she's just like, just eat. And it's just like, you don't get it. It's not about food. I don't need food. Like, I just need air, water, and sunlight. And I was like, girl, I get it. Just disassociate from real life and just be a plant, live your life. So Yonghae has given up food altogether, and when Inhae witnesses the doctors force feeding her and threatening sedation to prevent vomiting, Inhae bites the nurse holding her back. So her sister's also like getting riled up, like seeing her sister being like literally grabbed. But her sister does have a lot of strength, which always surprises everyone. And Inhe and Younghe are driven to a different hospital by ambulance, and Inhe observes trees as they pass by, which is a hint at the possible inheritance of similar vegetal psyche, which affects her as well. So I was like, oh my gosh, the sister's also dealing with this. A lot of things can be like randomly hereditary. So when I heard vegetal psyche, I was like, what is that? So in psychology, the psyche is the total or totality of the human mind, conscious and unconscious. The English word soul is sometimes used synonymously. So in this case, Aristotle, who is the philosopher, His theory of the three souls or three psyches are the vegetal psyche, the animal psyche, and the rational psyche, which would rule the field of psychology until the 19th century. Okay, so I want to just discuss the themes of the book. So the book is very short. Oh my gosh, that was one of the best parts. So I'm currently writing my book, and a lot of my books tend to be very long because I mainly read fantasy. So it's hundreds of thousands of words, 200,000 words. Stephen King, who's one of my favorite authors, his longest book, I think The Stand, was 1 million words. And I sat there and I read it. I ate that up. But it's just like, it warped my perception of like, what is a book? You know, there's Tolstoy, Dostoevsky. So all of those are just massive books. My sister got me Crime and Punishment from Germany, so I'm excited to read that. But to come back to actual literary fiction, this book is only 57,000 words. It is 180 something pages, and it took 5 hours to read. It's very short. Literally, it's not long, and it inspired me like, hey, I don't actually have to make such a long book. The point can literally be made put across in very few words. So my current novel right now, it is sitting as well at 58,000 words, and I'm like, wow, I'm so proud of myself for actually writing a short story for once. So now it is classified as a novella, The Vegetarian. And the novella primarily deals with desire, shame, empathy reflected by the characters' faltering attempts to understand the people around them. Okay, trying to get, yeah, the whole idea for me is just the fact that she just wants to turn into a plant. That's it. She's becoming passive, and the idea did come from, let me just think. The idea did come from a piece of artwork that she did see about people becoming plants, basically. So, Han first got the idea of writing about vegetation or plants when, as a university student, she came across the work of the noted Korean writer Yi Sang. In particular, she was struck by one quote: "I believe that humans should be plants." Han's lifelong exploration of themes of violence and humanity is also reflected in the book, which primarily deals with human beings' natural and daily choices in terms of food. So that one really did stick out to me. A lot of her other books are based on violence and human rights, basically. So I would recommend, if you are interested in The Vegetarian, if you really do end up liking it and you prefer books that are more idealistic, like based on ideas, ideologies, then you should continue to read more of her books. I was just curious about this one, but personally, I will not read more of her books. I do feel, though, that this book is very similar to like that sad girl trope, like just misunderstood girls. I recently, well, not recently, but one of my favorite books is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh, and her other book, Eileen. Those two books, those two characters, when I read those books, I was in a terrible state as well. And I totally related to those characters. And I was like, whoa, this is like kind of messed up, but it just is what it is. So, sad girl content, sad girl media, sad girl books. Yeah, I recently got Tumblr as well. So, it's like very in the vibe at the moment. So, it was very interesting reading this and just thinking it has similar vibes basically. Okay, so I did mention writing the book was a difficult task for her, with the main cause being her joint problems, which started in her mid 30s. So, everyone, please, if you're in your 20s, take care of yourself. Exercise because it does help your joints. Sorry, I work in the healthcare field. So, for me, it's like maintain your health so that you don't suffer later on. And yeah, Han received help from a video artist and psychiatrist to research the book. And the second part of the book is primarily inspired by Han's experience in the aforementioned artist, with the aforementioned artist whose body of work was extensively studied. So yeah, that's everything on the book. I was very intrigued by it, and it was very interesting to read. It's always nice to read a quick, short, and intense book that's just like, oh wow, it changed my perspective on life. So yeah, that was very interesting, very nice. I hope all of you have a wonderful day. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you feel compelled to read the book, yes, I will link the audiobook website for those of you who want to read it, let's say when you're in the car, when you're doing the dishes, because that's what I was doing. And I do have the EPUB. I think I'll post it onto my VK, which will also be linked below. So thanks for watching again. Just quickly wanted to make this. Oh, I'm so happy I finally got this video out. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day. God bless you. Bye.